everyone's so in love with me. Could it be my lips or my energy? I could count them up, be like 1, 2, 3. Everybody acts so in love with me.
I started making candles 4 years ago, and I've learned so much along the way. In today's video, I will be discussing what goes into a candle and why it's so hard to get it right. I also have an in-depth guide that shares exactly how to completely run your business through a success-based candle business template for you to download, as well as specific steps to be more intentional about your process. You can use the code YouTube for 30% off. Be sure to subscribe, like this video, and share it with other candle makers in Facebook groups to spread the word. Now let's jump right in. In this lesson, we will discuss what goes into making a candle, why is it so hard to get right, and where your recipes commonly fall short. Let's start with what goes into making a candle. Candle making includes quite a few moving parts. The best place to start to ensure you're creating a very strong smelling candle is with selecting the right jar. To ensure the safety of yourself and your customers, it is important to be mindful of your jar type and only select vessels that are heat resistant. A great example of this would be the Libby jars. They're #1 in the industry and a staple to any candle maker. From there, the diameter of your jar can play a significant role in your wicking process, and you should be mindful of the options that you have as it relates to how large your jar is. A secret tip that I like to use is to double wick my jars that are 3.5 inches and wider and triple wick my jars that are 4.5 inches and wider. The vendor that sold you the jar will most commonly have specific recommendations for the type of wick that you should use with it, but it would be important to leverage those recommendations as a loose guideline. The vendor for your wax will also have a wick guideline in their item description. If not, I'd recommend leveraging the wick guide that will be located in the description of this lesson. It is important to have both of those recommendations for your type of wax as well as your type of jar to get an accurate depiction of what wick you should choose for testing. Now that you know what goes into making a candle, let's talk about why it's so hard to get this right. The problem is that if you fail to test and properly perfect your recipes, then you run into the scenario of actually making a candle with a very quiet or no scent throw. It can be so challenging to find the right wax to fragrance percentage that works best to ensure you get the strongest smelling candle with the best performance. This process is so sensitive that the temperature in your home can make a significant impact on whether or not your candle cures properly. If your home is too cold, your candle may cure too fast and your fragrance will burn off. If it's too hot, your candle may cure too slowly and your fragrance will burn off. As a best practice, it is imperative to have your home at 70 degrees Fahrenheit, no higher, no lower, with the fan on to decrease humidity. People often assume that having more fragrance will give you a stronger hot throw. In fact, increasing the amount of fragrance can have a negative impact on whether or not you get a strong hot throw. In scientific terms, adding too much fragrance to the wax can result in syneresis, which is bleeding, as the wax cannot hold that excess of oil. In the simplest terms, your candle will sweat. So you'll get those little droplets of fragrance at the top once you light the candle. That means no hot throw and a waste of fragrance. Now that you know why it's so hard to get candle making right, let's discuss where your specific recipes typically fall short. The most common reason that people struggle to make candles properly is leveraging the wrong wick. As I mentioned prior, your wick testing is the most challenging aspect and the most important aspect of your candle making process. It can determine whether or not you get a full melt pull, a strong hot throw, and a repeat customer. There are thousands of different sizes and series of wicks. It is imperative to choose the right wick through trial and error. To expedite the process, I have linked the Ultimate Wick Testing Survival Guide in the description of this lesson. So after following all of these steps, how do you know if your candle is performing well? Simple. Make sure you adhere to these 5 principles. Number 1, the flame is between 1 and 2 inches high. Number 2, there is no sooting coming from the flame. Number 3, there is no tunneling with candle wax remaining on the side walls of the jar as the candle is burning. Number 4, there is no flickering or dancing of the wick when you are away from a fan. Number 5, you can smell that candle 30 minutes after you begin your burn test.